Hello. So it's my turn. It's my turn to give my testimony, and it's a bit like the football, isn't it? You know, with the testimonials. The testimonials, you get paid, and that's what's going to happen with me, because we know that when we proclaim Jesus on this earth, He proclaims us in front of the Father. Brilliant. So I'm getting paid today. This is the good one. So I've heard some of the testimonies here, and I've been blessed by them. Mine's slightly different. All the ones I've heard have been, frankly, shocking, from people that have been brought up in what would you say, a lower class, a poor and English background. Mine ain't like that. My grandparents were very wealthy. Yes, I both did now. They were very, very wealthy on my mother's side. They lived in what we called, the house was Brant Home, because we were kids. I've just actually looked it up, and it's still there, and it's called Brant Howe, and it's described as a mansion. They had live-in help. Call that what you like. They called them live-in help, but gardener, and I'm not sure whether the lady was a cook or a cleaner or both, but it was a wealthy old family. And my mum was the only daughter. She was the only child. She was the spoiled rich kid. And she met my dad, who was a bit rough, from Heaton Moor. And my dad's got a manufactured accent, you know. He made it through university, paid his way through it gardening, and he acquired an accent which doesn't belong to him at all. You hear me? Not at all. And he's like that. He's very, very demonstrative. He's a man of presence. You know when he comes into the room. You know when he sits down. He takes up about 3 seats, so even though he's only taking up one. You know the kind. You know, everybody else is rushed along the queue. They stop when they get to him and take their time. He's that kind of presence. And he's always right. And he was a difficult man to live with. He made his first million quite early, and he's carried on. Some wise investments. And the only thing that's valuable is the things that he's good at. So he's the one that's good at maths. And when he meets a kid that isn't good at maths, it's children these days, they ought to learn, you know, educated properly and stuff like that. Things he's not good at, of no value, you know. And I was born into this family, a middle child of 3. My sister, very academic. And I was born severely dyslexic. Of course, I didn't know that when I was born. I was born with bronchopneumonia, nearly died, but I'm far too young to remember that. But I was profoundly deaf. And that wasn't a physiological problem. That was a problem with the brain. It wasn't letting sound in and doing stuff with it. So I was deaf, and I was diagnosed as autistic, first of all, in a little world of my own, while my brain grew a bit and sorted out the hearing and what have you, and I started to be a bit more normal. But I was sent to boarding school, and Ramler's boarding school, and I was immediately not keeping up, not like the other ones, and my initial time there it's difficult looking back on it. It wasn't difficult at the time, because I was in a little world all of my own. I was very happy to be the little kid that stood on his own. I wasn't even aware I was stood on my own. I was in a world of my own. But what used to happen is I'd be at school, and it'd be time to do writing or reading or something like this, and I'd be sent out of the class to go into the reception class to be with them, because I couldn't do it. And looking back, it was the walk of shame, but I was in a little world all of my own, so I didn't know it. One day, I was doing the walk of shame, and one of the other kids who, was seeing me do this, foot out, tripped me up. I landed on a nail that stuck out of the plank, and great big hole in my knee, and still got the scar, of course. But I was blissfully unaware of this. I was in a world of my own. I wasn't aware that I was stood alone in the playground. It was a concern to the teachers. It was a concern to my parents. But for me, life was just going on. And fortunately, it was a private school. I was blessed, and the headmasters daughter was taking the class, and she just straight out of university, in with all the newfangled stuff about dyslexia, and her day was made because she found one. And, oh, look at this, one of those dyslexics. They're just as clever as everyone else, And so I was referred, and I was there, whatever they called statementing then. It probably wasn't that, and I was diagnosed as severely dyslexic. And that was right at the beginning. But blessed family, they had the money. I had the best education that money could buy. So I had a specialist teacher there. And if any of you have seen or remember the old documentaries that came out when they were doing dyslexia and discovering it, the pioneering work was at Manchester University. And I was part of the children that went there to be tested. And I was part of that group, and I saw the people that tested me onto Mars World, and like, look, I know him. It was cool, but school was not a happy time for me. It was in the remedial class, held back as many years as it could be held back. I remember writing my letters and trying to get them right. I think most of you don't remember that. That's before you start remembering, but mine is really late on. And I made it through up until the exams came. I was remedial class. They got me in CSCs on everything because people are thick. Dyslexics, is generally have problems with numbers. It's not always, but generally have problems with numbers, and me extremely so. So I'm not capable of doing my times tables. But the teachers say, oh, he's not good at maths. You better be in CSE, where you can't use a calculator, rather than O-level, where you can. But that's the way things are, if you're not handling things, they keep you back. And they were looking at the numeracy, the mental arithmetic side, which I was never going to be able to do. But dyslexics have a learning curve, which is slow and then steep. And I just came into my own when the mocks came up, and I was looking at the instructions on the mock exams, and it was, you can use a slide rule. What's that? I kind of knew a bit about it, but I asked the question, did a bit of research, and I found out that, it's for trigonometry, it's for doing stuff like sines, cosines, tangents, and all that kind of stuff. All the stuff that we didn't understand, but it does math, it does times tables as well. And that was a bit of a breakthrough. So I got through my mocks. The headmaster called me in and apologized for them misreading the situation, and I got some passable results, and so I double set all my examinations. But there we go. At least I was able to choose the best results, and we made it through. And it was. I must go back and just tell you that my father, being the character he was, extremely wealthy but extremely tight. We were blessed in that his standards were 2 holidays a year, 1 in this country, 1 abroad. That's blessed, right? But that's what he did. But he cared just much about dropping £1 on the floor as losing 1,000. It was, I laugh now, but he had us kids. Well, he had me, because of the autistic nature, I did what I was told. So we were told to walk up the steps on the sides like that, so we didn't have a carpet in the middle. And I was the only one stupid enough to do it, but I would. It was, I'm being serious, my sisters wouldn't do it as soon as he wasn't around, but I didn't have I'm told to do it, up the stairs, sideways like that. My mother, distressed about the amount of toilet paper, made the mistake of saying to me, you only need to wipe your bottom with 2 sheets of toilet paper. Now that is a sticky mistake she didn't make again. But it was that kind of, blanketed look at stuff that will, and I didn't care about not having friends so much. My mother did, and she used to bring around a little fat kid that couldn't find any friends and was a bit of a misfit. Look, I found someone to be friends with. You're like, oh no. They all think I'm thick at school, and now I'm going to hang around with the little fat kid that's got problems, I did to college, studied electrical and electronic engineering, and it was about that time that things really started to break down between me and my parents. I think you've got the idea. My dad's way was the way. We didn't have a discussion about which career opportunity. He would very often be saying stuff like, "You'll never amount to anything. You're unemployable, you are." And my sister plays every instrument under the sun, or did no joy in it. She had all the instruments bought for her. I got the harmonica. That's where I learned harmonica, because I did ask for a bugle, but that cost a bit, and it's John. You can't do it. And I couldn't play it at home in earshot because they just told me to shut up and we don't know what you're playing. That was pretty much it. My parents were looking for the academic stuff, and I wasn't providing it. So their big idea was, we'll get him into funeral directing. Thanks. So anyway, I was at college for electrical engineering, and I hadn't wanted to go there to do that. I got some qualifications, but I did leave early because I got qualifications as you went along, But I'd started building stuff for educationally subnormal children, flashing lights, chasing lights, and stuff like that. And I was making a bit of money at it. It was not a charity. Don't say, "Hey, it's great for him." It was nothing to do with the kids. It was paying me cash, and I left home. I said to Dad, "I'm not doing college course," and his way or the highway, and it was a highway. So off I went and set up on my own in Eaton Moor, and carried on. And I worked with my godfather for a bit in textiles, and then things got a bit better between me and my parents, my dad, and I joined the Freemasons. My father is a Freemason. My grandfather, he's a Freemason as well. My uncle's a Freemason. So I was what's known as a Lewis, which is the son of a Freemason. And it actually refers to a pin that you use to lift a block in masonry. And I joined it, and something amazing happened. You see, because me that can't do maths, whose writing is, even now it looks scribbly. My best writing looks scribbly, but back in the day, it was completely illegible. And of course, my spelling is not there. But I joined the Freemasons, and I found that I could do the ritual. This is learnt off parts, pieces, and I could do it well. Some of the pieces I was doing were over 5 minutes long, of word perfect stuff, and I was doing up quick. One, because of my history, because of the family connection, and two, because I was good at it. And this was what? I still had the problem with my father, because he went before me everywhere. Don't ask him to read anything or write anything. You'll make him feel stupid. And he's like, not half as stupid as having your old man going ahead of you everywhere and telling him, well, and then you'd have people you don't know. "Hello, are you Jonathan?" Yeah. Oh, gosh. I've heard about dyslexia. Just as clever as everyone else, aren't you? I'm missing out a whole bit because my hobby at home was electronics. So I used to build radios and stuff like that of totally no value to my father. What's the point in that? Nothing. I used to hack televisions and build stuff into them. I got into infrared remote controls because they'd come out, so I was hacking into the codes behind them and retransmitting them around the place. I did quite well as a kid, for stuff like that, but I didn't value what I did either. I didn't think there was anything clever about it. That's why I ended up in the electronics. So I'd left and I'd gone into textiles. I'm in Freemasonry now and doing well in there and enjoying it. But my textile job, really low paid, working for my godfather. I'll treat you just like my sons, and he treated them bad. But he was a Freemason as well. He's actually a charity student. Anyway, I met my first wife, and there was some differences between us, but no girl would have looked at me twice. I was a reasonably looking thing, but if you spoke to me, I'd go bright red. I was not there in terms of social stuff. I would have been a difficult guy to to form a friendship with, or any kind of relationship, you know. I got a reputation for being arrogant, and it was just a disguise, you know. So I met this girl, Catholic, or not Catholic, that kind of says that she had a religion, but, you know, Irish. Some father niff-naff used to pop round every now and again, and some nun with a po face, you know. Oh, okay, but nothing to do with the God I know and love. Anyway, one of 14 kids. So you probably pretty much got the idea then. A couple of them in prison. She wasn't. She was with me. You know, you know, the kind of family. Thursday night, mother would be knocking on the door, can I borrow a tenner, can I borrow 20 quid? You probably wouldn't see it again. You might see it again, and if there was an argument that came attached to getting it back. You know, the kind of family. But there was a history of mental illness in that family. And my then missus was okay. There was standards difference, and I tried to tease her out of it, took her out, got her socialising and what have you. And we had my first child, Charlotte. Then we had, about 2 years later, Daniel, my second child. And after each child, mental health deteriorated somewhat. And then we had my third child, Simon, and he is such a blessing to me. But that was it. Her brain went. It was, unfortunately, it went slowly, and it was like a good day and bad day thing, you know. And the standards of looking after the kids, that was slipping. And I'd be trying to involve social services, trying to get some help, and she seems all right to me. And it got worse, and it got worse. And it started to get faster and faster. In the end, she was beating me from work and convinced that something was going on. I mean, it did, but it was because of that. You know, at one point, you know, I did wander at one bit. And anyway, so she went potty, and that's probably a rough way of saying it, isn't it? But she went downhill, and I started getting the police coming round because she'd accused me of sexually abusing the kids. And she'd accused me of battering her and stuff like that. So if you ever, you know, when you see on television, you know, the women should be listened to campaigns and stuff like that, I take a little bit of a different take on that. You know, I understand where it's coming from, but right is right. You know, somebody that didn't shouldn't be accused, and women don't always tell the truth. You know. Anyway, so things are going downhill fast. In the end, I was hospitalised. I had to leave for the children because she regarded me as the problem. I was planning and plotting all kinds of stuff in her head, and social services started to take a notice, and it started to be the children would have to be taken into care. Ooh, yeah, that was yeah. And I couldn't be there. I used to come and pick up the kids outside. Her care had deteriorated to such a point that I could do that. She wouldn't let me in to get them. It would turn. And her care had deteriorated that she got a family member in to childmind while she went out to the pub because drink then started to come in and other stuff. Meth was one of the drugs of choices. But I was beyond caring about what she did. You know, the relationship had completely gone, and she could do what she liked in terms of sleeping with other people. You know, that wasn't it. But she invited a family member around, and thank the Lord, my son came in and stopped him before he managed to abuse my daughter too much. So it was averted. It was bad enough shock for her the way it was, but it was averted. And I got the kids, eventually. I managed to get the kids on a residence order, a temporary residence order. And I got them back to my parents' house. And, family love? Oh, a lot of you don't know how much a family loves each other. I can tell you mine lasts 3 weeks. 3 weeks is the tolerance they had. Whew. Now this is a family, that I said, just buy me a little flat and then get the money back later on. This is a family that can do that and do it easily. No one's going to miss out on their steak on a Sunday if they did that. You're just talking about numbers at the end of a bank account. We can't do that. We have to do the same for all the children. Okay. Now my mum was a Christian. She was... Who knows running? So, my mum was a Christian, and some of you will have heard of her. You will have read her work. She does poetry. At the church that I went to when I was a kid, when I gave my life to Christ, there were 3 women that sat together. My mum was a tutter. Whenever I said Jesus, she'd go, "Can't even do it now. My mouth's gone dry because you're all scaring me." But she, like that, And the Lord will come. She'd be like that, and she'd be sat next to an that goes, like that. And the other one was even worse. She was a monotone, "Yes, Lord." So there'll be preaching on, my mum would be going, like that, and she'd be, "Yes, Lord." It was like donkey in that, what's it, Shrek thing. I'd be sat like, no. Oh, but I'll tell you something. When it happened, you could see all the Jesus. And she was one of those, you just make like you're holding the face of Jesus. Like that. And it was like water flowing off her. All that had gone, and she was speaking as common as anything. I've got a cup of tea, sweetness. You have to speak up, won't you? Yeah. And that had gone, and I had to go and send the kids back. I certainly didn't want to, but they couldn't be part of that. It was terrible. I just had to carry on the legal battle of trying to get the kids. Social workers were awful. They have got this thing where both parents are equal. It's down to prime carer. There's nothing wrong with social workers' policies about how they do stuff. But individually, the one I had, she was trying to find out what was wrong with me. The worse the wife got, the worse I must be making her like that. It's like it was no win. But I was at that point. I had as a child I had been quite active in church. I'd given my life to God, but I'd backslidden. And I'll just tell you briefly why I backslid. That's not true. The devil's why I backslid. But I backslid because somebody had come into church with the ministry of healing dyslexia. He had no ministry. He knew that about 10% of the population is likely to have some kind of dyslexia or specific learning difficulty. He was like the preacher, that comes in. Somebody outside with a Ford Fiesta. The Lord has got something. You just come through the car park, didn't you? You saw the Ford Fiesta. Do I look as stupid as you? Well, he was the same. He was a 10%er. And you know what? When you're dealing with somebody that's hurt, that is, get away. I don't need this in my life, and I left. Still. So I diverse. So where was I up to? So I haven't got the kids yet, right? So I'd left back home, and I was continuing through courts to try and get the kids back. And this eventually happened. I got the kids back. I got the house. Now we have the problem that I've got legal bills up to my neck. I've got to have a childminder to look after the kids. If you're a woman, it's okay. You can get help with that. Not with me, because they didn't call it a childminder, because a childminder is somebody you take the kids to like that and drop them off and come back. And, you go to your job in McDonald's. Well, it didn't fit me. I had to promise the court that I'd work nights to try and keep the kids okay and be there for them. The youngest of them. So I get the kids back. My daughter's just wetting herself. My middle son is doubly incontinent. It was a mess. And the youngest was only 2, and he was still in nappies. So I'm their single-parent dad, feeling completely unequal to the task, working all night, coming back, dropping the kids off at nursery and school, trying to get a bit of sleep, picking them up, get myself back off to work. I was a zombie. I was emotionally done for. I was a dead man, and I had no money. And initially, I got a bit of cash off my dad to help, because it was quite literally that the outgoing was more than the incoming. It was before the food came along. It wasn't a not enough or what have you. It simply didn't add up. There was too much. In the end, my dad cleared off a lot of the stuff, and that put me in a reasonable state, but I was still struggling, and the Freemasons stepped in. Obviously, with all this messing, I'd stopped going to lodge, but I was still a Freemason. And they stepped in, and they paid for everything. They were absolutely fantastic. They couldn't do enough. I had a disposable income. They were brilliant. They asked for nothing. I'll tell you, if you want to know why I have such a love for Freemasonry, it's the giving. I'll tell you what's wrong with Freemasonry later on. But it's not what you read about. It's not what you hear. It's not the books. The books, let me tell you, I've read some of them, and it's frightening. It's like somebody writes a story about the worst things of church, and they bring in the child abuse in the Irish stuff. They bring in the weird sex that you'd have nothing to do with, and they make some stuff up, and then there's a bit of exaggerated truth somewhere in it. But it's just not like that. They just don't defend themselves. It's a society with secrets, and if I told you about what the secrets are, they're stupid. They're dumb. They're just made up words, or sometimes characters from the Bible that they use as secrets. But it's nothing. It really isn't. But, the churches, they're going, the truth about Freemasons. You always meet the person that, well, my husband was high up in Freemasonry. Well, that's the whole thing about Freemasonry. Everybody is. That's the game. You get promoted and promoted. As soon as you come in there, everyone's high up in Freemasonry. Nobody talks about it. But they're not like another charity group. They only get money for themselves. So they're not come knocking on your door. They're just gathering their own money, and they're running orphanages and doing stuff. They do some fantastic work. So I've said all that, but it is wrong. It does break God's rules, unfortunately, but probably not the ways you think. All this stuff about witchcraft and all the other silly stuff. If there is some in some other sect somewhere else, maybe, but you don't get it. They all follow set rules that are laid down in Freemasonry. But the devil ain't like that. The devil doesn't come standing in front of you saying, "Here I am." Get in your prayer groups, stand up against it. He doesn't do that. He sneaks around the back, doesn't he? He comes on the little things. So one of the things about Freemasons that I can tell you is that you promise that you will obey the call to go to lodge. You make that promise. How can a Christian do that? How can a Christian say, when the worshipful master says, come to lodge, I will go. Because God is not God of your life as long as you're doing that. And that's where the devil's working. The other stuff, red herrings, I'm sorry, it isn't. They give more money than most people. And they do it for no other reason than, well, some of them are trying to make themselves look good in the eyes of other Freemasons, get promotion because you get promoted for doing it. Some of them are doing it because it's a passion. There we go. So, I'm at home, my home with the kids, and my first childminder is my current wife. And she is from a country called Guadeloupe, which is French Caribbean. So it confuses us English people a bit, but the French still own some of their islands. So she is French Caribbean. She is French citizen, but she comes from the Caribbean. And she was over here doing tourism and English as a second language. And I was in between childminders. So in she came. Well, she was my first one, so not in between. And she looked after them during her summer holidays and what have you. And then I got permanent ones. They were special people, my childminders. They had to be able to put up with the ex-wife putting the window through and potential vigilante groups coming to sort me out as she spread the word of what an evil individual I was and what I was doing. But until the very end, they were all pretty desperate for a job and not really, well, they were achieving their potential coming to look after my kids, let me tell you. So I'm now in a situation where I'm being supported by the Freemasons. Things are okay in terms of money. I'm not starving anymore. Well, I never starved, but I'd run out, completely run out. I'm looking after the kids on my own. And I'd started going out with Lynn, my wife, spelled L-I-N-E, as in line. And she was going to my old church, where I was disillusioned by the false testimony, by the false promise of healing by this man. And I started going back. And, there was a fire ignited in me again. And they started going on about the Freemasonry, didn't they? You need to be dropping that, you need to, and all the old arguments, you're saying, it's a load of rubbish. You're talking, no, that's not what it is. And I resisted it until I stumbled on myself, not by the pastors or anybody else, I can't make a promise like that. I can't do that. That is saying that God is not my God. And that was not the way it was. So I took a decision. Long gap there. So I took a decision, and that was that I was going to throw away the money that they were giving me. I was going to say no to it, and I was going to resign from Freemasonry. And this put me in a situation where, again, I'd be no longer able to support my children, to feed them. But to tell you the truth, you can imagine I'm a single parent, living with 3 kids, working every hour. There wasn't a whole lot going on in my life. I was pretty dry. I couldn't cry anymore. I was emotionally drained. There wasn't any. When something bad happened, it would just be like a thud on the head. There was no tears. It was just that was all gone. But I made the decision, and I was angry. I was furious that I had to make this decision, and I was open. And I told everybody what I was doing, and I said, and I'm going to tell you. I'm going to come and tell you that I did this. I did the right thing. And I'm going to tell you that it failed, that I fell flat on my face, that I'm now in real trouble, that I can't cope. I'm going to tell you that I had to give up my kids because I didn't have any money to look after them. I'm going to tell you all that. And I'll tell you, that's not what happens. Some of the clever ones around here will spot where this is going. But I'd given it all up. I'd given up the money. I got called into the pastors to see the pastors. And Lynn was there. And she wanted to marry me. I'd already told her, I can't be asking anybody to marry me. I couldn't, I'm just not in that place. I can't ask anybody to marry me. I wouldn't expect anybody to marry me. And, if you want to marry me, you just tell me. But I'm not doing the whole rigmarole of down on one knee just to have it thrown back in my face. But she called me into the pastors, and they told me. They said, what are you going to do about the children? Well, I'd had a vasectomy. Part of my ex-wife's thing with this mental thing was a sexual thing. She wanted more kids, and I got 3. And to be honest with you, who wants to make a kid with a nutter? It's not a good idea. I'd had a vasectomy, so I couldn't do that. And I said, I'll do what I can. If there's a vasectomy reversal that works, I'll take that. I'll do whatever is necessary. If it turns out to be adoption, I'll do that. If it's some other solution, I'll do that. But everything I can do, I will do. And, okay. So, I quit the Freemasonries. 3 months later, I'm married to my current wife. I got married, debt-free. And I had a big marriage. We went for a honeymoon in Tunisia, debt-free. And that was money that came from silly things. There was even a check from the Freemasons because this had been in the books and it was ready to be given out, and even though I'd left, it was already on the paperwork, and that came in. And there was, the income tax rebate thing had suddenly arrived, and there was love gifts from church. And we did a big wedding. It was big. The best man at my wedding has just walked in and he's behind you. He's the one that the zippity-doo-dah, zippity, hey, have a look behind you. That's him. Yeah. So he's put me off now, hasn't he? So we had a big old wedding, and it was debt-free. So 3 months after I gave up Freemasonry, I didn't even have a fiancé then. My wife, I was married. At the same time, almost to the day, I got offered a promotion at a job, and I went into field service. Where I was. Started travelling the world. My income doubled. At that point there, money, well, no childminder anymore. That wasn't an issue. The money was mine, and it doubled. And then promoted again. Kept on getting promoted. In the end, I moved companies, became the senior automation engineer. That's what I do, I'm a programmer. Did that for a while. And I'm on pretty good money. So I went self-employed. Now I own my own company. I'm blessed. I'm blessed I'm here. I was supposed to be in China. I'm going on China on Monday now. My daughter, single parent father. 4 years I was a single parent. Well, that's Dr. Payne, and she's in Glasgow. She runs a practice. Sorry, she's part of a practice there. She doesn't run a practice. She's part of a practice there. She's a dentist. My middle son, well, he's a tattoo artist. He's making his living. He's doing what he wants. My youngest son, my youngest son to my first wife. He's a sports masseur, sports therapist. He's trained in that. He has to work doing some painting and decorating. He's not getting enough work at the moment. What a blessing. Fantastic, lad. I gave, as I promised God, I gave my testimony soon after. And that testimony, of course, well, that's telling people that God is no man's debtor. Can I tell you, God never healed me of dyslexia. He healed you. He changed the way people see me. They don't see the thick guy who can't spell, who's writing and scribbling and can't do his times table. They see an absent-minded doctor type now, who he thinks he just scribbles stuff down like a doctor. No, I can't write. Actually, and when you get up to MD of a company, people don't ask you to multiply 6 by 5. No, they don't. I was guest speaker for Siemens on cyclic and acyclic data transfer. Siemens. I was their guest speaker. They don't know. They don't know that when I put my foot forward, God's blessing goes first. One decision to put it all on the line. One decision not to go, face of Jesus, yes, Lord. One decision to do it for real. To make it real. Not, yes, Lord, you are Lord of my finances. Yes, Lord. Financial breakthrough. One decision to do it for real. And since then, every step I take is blessed. I walk in God's favor. The devil doesn't have a shout on my finances. God turns around and says, you don't say anything about his finances. He said it's mine, and he proved it. You don't get to mess with him and his finances. He's done it. He took the step, and he is blessed. I'm not saying I have it easy. I'm not saying I do the right thing all the time, but I always make. I am known to be one of the most politically incorrect guys in my church. I am forever saying the wrong thing. But I did one thing right, one time. And if you have to learn from anything, learn from that. You don't actually have to go to the meetings about financial release. You just have to do it. You just have to, when your trial comes along, you just have to say, all right, I'm doing it. And you will work like a severe dyslexic guy who can't do his times tables, who lived the life of a thick man at school with no friends. You will be able to make the decision I made. I don't need to earn 120 grand a year anymore. I'm taking some time off to help somebody else and do that. I'm happy with 100 grand a year. Take a few days off. Help somebody. I blessed somebody with a car. I blessed him with $2,500. It was actually over $2,500 because he couldn't have enough money to. My trials don't come like that anymore. My trials come because he wasted it. And I've got to deal with that and put my head straight about that. Because it was like, you bless the money and everything's happy ever after. And when it's not, it's like, I made a big mistake. Well, I didn't make a mistake. It's another one. So you just got to take the risk. You could do it like I did, with anger. I'll tell him. I'll tell him if it doesn't work. You can do it like Jonah. Jonah's my favourite character. Says all the wrong things, but he does the right thing in the end. He's not a, yes, Lord, like that. No, he's not. He's not a wave a hand in church. Don't mishear me. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with waving hands in church. I'm not saying that's not right. If that's what brings you close, that's fine. But there's got to be something real behind it. That's what I'm saying. There's got to be something real. Say the wrong thing. Say the wrong thing. Do the right thing. And I'm not saying that words are not important either. You didn't hear me say that. Words are important. But, dear Jonah, be somebody that can hear from God. Say no. Have an argument. But do the right thing. I want to thank you for your time. I'm going to continue walking in God's blessing because of one decision. I hope you do the same.